everyone, and welcome to another edition of Paul's Cinema Picks of the Week. My name is Paul Westbrook. I am Brantford's film enthusiast, as you see on the shirt. And first, before we begin, I want to say, Ethan Sargent, thank you very much for suggesting today's subject. Today's subject is, we're going to be looking at least 5 different directors. I'm going to profile 5 different directors. And I'm going to be discussing about a little bit of anecdotes about some of their other films as well as what they have here. Okay, now our first director I'm going to start with is the writer Stephen King, who did It.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah.
Well, my
My
favorite.
sister likes this one here, It. This was the original miniseries from the 90s, yes. They recently did a 2-part movie. And that was Bill Skarsgård. But this is the original one. A lot of people seem to prefer the original.
I do.
Yeah, my sister likes Stephen King's It very much. Yes, of course. Tim Curry playing the part of Pennywise the Clown. This one. And, of course, you get an all-star cast as well. You get Harry Anderson, Dennis Christopher, Richard Mastur, Annette O'Toole, Tim Reed, John Ritter, and Richard Thomas. And, of course, Tim Curry's appearance is the special appearance for this one. Because, like I said, he's playing the evil and scary clown. It's one of the original Scare Clown movies that they did about a group of kids. And, of course, they run into this creature. It's actually a creature. It's shaped as a clown. And he's the one that terrifies this whole group, and in the story they get rid of him as kids, and then 20 years later, he comes back from wherever he's been banished to, and decides to go after him again as adults. And yeah, like my sister said, she preferred the original one here because this was the first film attempt at doing Stephen King's It, adapting it into a motion picture, and it was good. I also liked the remake. A lot of people didn't really like the remake too much. I don't know why, because the clown actually is very scary in that one too.
Again, it is, but at the same time, from my perspective, it doesn't have the same storyline.
It doesn't have the same storyline, yeah. So they varied the storyline a little bit, just for that particular one compared to this one. But yeah. This one actually played on TV. The other 2 were motion pictures. And there is a third one coming. I think it's called Welcome to Derry or something like that. And it's Pennywise's Return. Again, I don't know why, because I think once they covered the whole story, that was it. And that was pretty well all you could do as far as that movie goes. But yeah, Stephen King was famous also for doing Salem's Lot, for doing Carrie, Cujo. He was actually in Creepshow, believe it or not. He played a disgruntled guy that went to a bank machine and said the bank machine called him an a-hole. Yeah, Stephen King, he did Cat's Eye as well. Yeah, Stephen King did a lot of great stories. The Stand. Well, then there was Stand By Me, actually, which is based, I believe, on a Stephen King story. The movie Stand By Me, which was made in 86. But, and Maximum Overdrive. Everybody likes Maximum Overdrive. That was one of my favorite Stephen King movies.
What was a funny movie.
About the trucks. Yes,
yeah.
The trucks that start moving on their own and chasing after the town. And yeah, that was another favorite Stephen King movie of mine. But, yes, he was really famous by the time he did It, but It was still one of his more famous adaptations. I also personally like Salem's Lot. Stephen King's Salem's Lot. It's about vampires.
And I haven't seen it yet?
You haven't seen it yet, believe it or not. My sister has not seen that one yet, so yeah, you'll have to look for it and see if you can find it, and then watch it. I wouldn't trust in the remake so much. I know there's a remake that's already been made with Rob Lowe, and then there's a remake coming out, I believe, next year. Yeah, so that's the latest one, and yeah, but I always preferred the original 79 miniseries. Can't go wrong, but yes, that's Stephen King. And my friend Christina LeBlanc, she really enjoys Stephen King herself. So, yeah, there's a shout out to her as well. Next, we have this one here, Kingdom of Heaven. And Ridley Scott, he was famous for directing the movie Gladiator, not Titanic. That would have been James Cameron. But anyway, yes, Ridley Scott directed Gladiator. And here it's another a thrilling action-type movie with lots of action. This one has sword play, and it's like a young, basically here on, according to the DVD cover here, it's like Orlando Bloom heads an all-star cast in a sweeping tale about a young knight during the Crusades who must battle overwhelming forces to save his people and to fulfill his true destiny. Yeah, it's Orlando Bloom, who is also in Lord of the Rings. He's in this one. But yeah, Ridley Scott was famous for Blade Runner and especially Alien, the original Alien movie back in 1979. And I remember seeing those. I was actually afraid when the Alien movie first came out because I thought, just by the trailer, it was very scary. And then Blade Runner was really good. I got a DVD set at home which has, believe it or not, 3 versions of Blade Runner. So you get to see Blade Runner 3 different times with 3 different, from the aspect of the scenes that they put into it, it's a comparison piece just to see which one is the best version. But here, yes, in Kingdom of Heaven, it's like the Knights and the Crusades. And like, it's reminiscent of Gladiator, and it's very well done. And of course, the action, non-stop action, you get plenty of that. So this is another DVD to add to your collection if you can find it. Okay, here we have a movie called Inception, and it's directed by Christopher Nolan. Nolan was famous for doing the Dark Knight trilogy with Christian Bale as Batman, and he also directed Heath Ledger as the Joker in the sequel, The Dark Knight. And then the third one, Dark Knight Rises, which had Tom Hardy as Bane. And some of Nolan's films border on very complex themes, and at times, well, this one here, I still haven't really figured out what it's about. It's like a dreams. Let's see, my sister might know about it.
Basically, dream walking, controlling
the dreams, stuff like that.
Others' dreams.
But yeah, the main theme is dreams itself, and he goes into the world of dreams and
someone else's dream.
And someone else's dream, yes, and then he's able to
manipulate.
Yeah, and yeah, you get a share of action, but like I said, the themes are very complex. That's why I'm having my sister explain it a little bit to me, because I've seen it. It's one of those movies that you really can't figure out. You just have to watch it.
It's about my end, anyways.
Yeah, it's a visual treat. Like the visuals, and then you have to really sit and you have to really think about what's this movie about? Like what themes are they trying to get across? But the acting is great. The acting is tremendous. You get Leo DiCaprio, of course, who always makes the movie great. You get Elliot Page, who at that time was Ellen Page, and you get Marion Cotillard. I think she was in Dark Knight Rises as well. She played Talia. Cillian Murphy, who is just an outstanding actor. Tom Berenger and Michael Caine, with brilliant musical score by famed composer Hans Zimmer. So this one here, you get enough action and you get enough good acting, as well as the ensemble being put together, and then the complex themes that you really have to think about. My sister knows about a lot of the dream stuff and this stuff more than what I would. Like, I had seen the film. It was just one of those ones that was very confusing.
I'll cover it in my witchy episode.
Yeah, my sister will be able to cover more of that when she does her show. But yeah, Inception was a good film. I would certainly say see it when you can find it. Because it doesn't disappoint. It's just, like I said, it's for a certain audience. It's an audience perspective thing. But yeah, visually, it's spectacular. Yes. I gotta get a drink here first before I get the next one. Is Wes Craven, the famed director for Scream, originally started with Last House on the Left, and here we got the Nightmare on Elm Street 4 film favorites. Yes, Wes Craven, of course, is famous for the creation of Freddy Krueger, and one of my sister's favorite films is Nightmare on Elm Street 3. She loves that one.
Yeah.
I got to tell you a story. When we first got Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I think they wore it out.
Yes.
Almost. Was it where I had to buy another copy because it wore out? The first copy I bought, they wore out because it was like, Linda always wanted to play it about 4 or 5 or 6 dozen times. But Freddy Krueger is one of the great stars of horror, and we can thank Wes Craven for actually creating him. But yeah, later after doing the Nightmare on Elm Street, and then he eventually went into the Scream movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Wes Craven I think he did the first 3 or 4 Scream films, and Craven was a prolific director in his own right. He liked doing a lot of horror films, and so he decided to branch off from Freddy, but at the same time, once you're into the horror film genre, you can never really escape. So you got Nightmare on Elm Street, and then you got Freddy Krueger, and then later you got the Scream movies as well. So, yeah, Wes Craven was a good director. I think he passed away a few years back. I'm not sure when it was he passed, but he was a great director, and he'll certainly be missed in the annals of horror film history. Finally, we look at Lord of the Rings. I was able to find the third one here, and I'm sure she's got the other Lord of the Rings. Oh, you don't have the other Lord of the Rings?
No, you got that for my late partner for Christmas one year.
Yeah. But you don't have that anymore.
No, you only got him that one.
So I got this one here. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, this is the Return of the King one. And the director we're talking about is Peter Jackson. Now, Peter Jackson was from Australia. He started doing movies, like lower budget movies, like this one I got called Bad Taste. And Peter Jackson, his most famous ones now are the Lord of the Rings movies, which he's made the 3 of the Frodos, and then later he made the Hobbit ones. So that's like a total of 6 in total. And he also did the recent 2005 remake of King Kong. And Peter Jackson, like any director, he has a real strong appreciation for motion picture. And yeah, it was always a toss-up between Lord of the Rings and King Kong, which one I liked best, because Lord of the Rings was spectacular. I actually watched a lot of these, for the visuals, like the shots, the cinematography, the shots of the mountains, and when they're climbing up the mountains, and some of the scenery. Like, I know some of it was also green screen, but the shots of the mountain, I believe those were legitimate. Like, he shot like in a helicopter, so you get to see a lot of the mountains and the ranges and the scenery. So it's like Middle Earth expanded. You see all these different areas, and in King Kong, which I believe was mostly green screen and CGI, but at the same time it was still great, because I've always been a fan of King Kong. So they did I got 2 versions of that movie. I've got the 2005 theatrical release, and I got the expanded cut, which actually had an additional dinosaur scene. And I know Peter Jackson viewed King Kong as a passion project, because ever since he'd seen the original, he wanted to do his own version of it. And at one point he actually tried to get Fay Wray to do the scene of do a cameo, except but she had died, I guess. Well, she died before he could actually get her to do the film, so unfortunately she wasn't able to do the film. But yeah, Lord of the Rings movies were very popular. In fact, this one won 11 Academy Awards, I believe, just this one alone. So a lot of the other ones were top notch as well, and I believe they were up also for the awards, like for best makeup and best acting. And yeah, I've actually grown to be a Lord of the Rings fan the last little while, so it's one of the all-time best films. You got that one there, sis?
Mhm.
All right, so there you go. There's at least a profile of at least 5
You
different
should talk about
directors.
one more because about one of our viewers is the one that suggested this show. His favorite producer was Steven Spielberg.
Spielberg, producer, director.
What movies did he do? I don't think I have
Spielberg started, one of his earliest movies was 1971's movie called Duel. That was with Dennis Weaver, and in that one, it's a man is traveling a business. I guess he's going down the highway, and this truck, you can't see the driver, but the truck seems to be chasing him through the whole film. It's like everywhere he goes, this truck is following him. So there was that movie that he started with, and of course Spielberg's most famous movie was Jaws, the 1975 movie Jaws, about the killer shark, which they filmed in Martha's Vineyard. And of course Spielberg was famous for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was famous for E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark. Can't forget Raiders of the Lost Ark. Which, by the way, they're doing their 5th movie now. They're going to be doing their 5th coming up. They're doing the 5th movie of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And, well, Spielberg was just outstanding a lot of the films that he had done. And E.T. was one of my personal favorites. Sorry, Gino. I know you aren't not exactly fond of E.T., but E.T. was one of my favorite movies of Steven Spielberg because I just thought it was so well done. And when the DVD came out, I got the one with the theatrical version, and they did an extended cut with added scenes. So yeah, Spielberg, and along with George Lucas, who did Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, and did the prequels. But a lot of people seem to be disgruntled about the prequels, so I just go into the original films with George Lucas. But believe it or not, when he started, he was doing early films like THX 1138. He did American Graffiti, and then around that time he was starting the work for Star Wars. One of my other favorite directors was Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock, because he was famous for Psycho, Marnie, The Trouble with Harry. And one set I got of Hitchcock's, I want to do a show on Hitchcock eventually so I can expound more on him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did get this one set that has a lot of his early movies. So yeah, when I get that one, I can certainly talk more about Hitchcock. Then there was Francois Truffaut, who did Fahrenheit 451. My favorite director of all time, my favorite director period, was also a great actor, Charlie Chaplin. Because a lot of people only know him for the silent movies, but Chaplin was a accomplished director, musician, writer, composer, as well as director, and starred in his own films. So he was more or less the jack of all trades of the silent era. And of course there was Hal Roach, D.W. Griffith, Cecil B. DeMille, who was
Stan Lee a director, a producer, or just a writer?
He might have been a producer. I think he might have been listed in some credits as a producer, but I don't really remember him directing a movie per se. He might. I'm sure any comic book purists out there, if they know if he directed a movie, let us know on that. But I don't believe he really directed a specific movie. Angelina Jolie's done directing too recently.
Ooh.
Yeah, she did a movie By the Sea, which I actually have. I was looking through my collection home and I actually found the By the Sea movie.
I'll have to borrow it.
Yeah, she directed that, and then there's like I said, D.W. Griffith. He did the most prolific silent film of all time, Birth of a Nation, and he also did Intolerance and a lot of films with Lillian Gish. It was the rundown of the silent era. And of course there was George Méliès. George Méliès did the movie Trip to the Moon 1902, so there's another director. And then there was Ferdinand Zecca, R.W. Paul, William K. Dixon, and of course, believe it or not, Thomas Edison. The guy that's responsible for that. Your light, the guy that invented the light, is the guy that also did the American version of motion pictures. Because I don't really credit the American side as inventing the actual motion pictures, even though most cinema books would credit that. No, my credit goes to the French, which Auguste and Louis Lumière, who did some of the earliest films, including the very first movies. They actually, they're the ones I would credit as being some of the top directors of all. There you go, some of the top directors. And Orson Welles. Orson Welles, who was famous for Citizen Kane, 1942. And yes, he was an amazingly fantastic director himself. So that's a list of some of the directors that I have been able to discuss with. Like I said, when I get more films here, I'll be able to, like, I want to do one of Hitchcock or do some different ones. I'll just bring the films to the company so that way I'd be able to discuss more. But for now, this is Paul Westbrook, Brantford's film enthusiast. Thanking you very much for this. Thank you, Ethan Sargent, for suggesting this subject. It was very challenging, but at the same time it was fun. And reminding you that I'll be seeing you at the movies. Goodbye for now.